When Lance Armstrong finally confessed to doping, the part that shocked me wasn't the admission itself, it was what came after. Journalists went down the list of Tour de France finishes during his era, with estimates suggesting over 90% of the peloton was doping. It was considered impossible to win without using substances like EPO, as nearly all top competitors during that era were doping. I'd covered cycling for years, and watching that list unravel, I kept thinking, if everyone was doing it, was it even cheating? Or was it just the sport? So basically, they were on a level playing field. Now, fast forward to a few months ago, I'm scrolling Instagram, and there's an ad for peptides, not from some underground lab, just a regular company selling them online like supplements, with hundreds of people in the comments casually discussing which ones they're taking. From whispered secrets to Instagram ads, something has fundamentally shifted, and we're not talking about it. I'm Leigh-Ann Paulick, and this is the Enhanced Pod. So hi and welcome. I've been in sports broadcasting for 28 years. I've covered everything from local club rugby to international competitions. I've interviewed world champions, up-and-comers, athletes at the peak of their careers, and athletes watching their careers slip away. And in this time, I've watched the conversation around performance shift in ways most people haven't noticed. 10 years ago, when I'd interviewed athletes here, they'd talk about training volume, nutrition timing, maybe their physio routine, standard stuff. Now, the conversations are different. They're talking about peptides, sleep architecture, genetic testing, cold exposure protocols, continuous glucose monitoring, things that sound like science fiction, but are just Tuesday for a professional athlete. A few years ago, I got curious and started digging into the science behind human performance, longevity research, biohacking, genetics, and I went down this rabbit hole thinking I'd find answers, and what I found were better questions, and that is why we are here. Here's the thing about being in sports media for nearly 3 decades. You start seeing patterns. I remember when altitude training was controversial. People called it artificial enhancement. You're manipulating your red blood cell count, they said. That's not natural. Now, every serious endurance athlete does altitude training, and it's not even a conversation anymore. It's just part of the program. Sports psychology was the same. 20 years ago, having a mental performance coach was seen as weakness, implying that you couldn't handle the pressure. Now, it is standard. Every team has one. Cryotherapy, ice baths. 5 years ago, people thought it was pseudoscience. Now there is a recovery center in every major city. The line keeps moving. And here's what fascinating is that we never actually decide where that line should be. We just react. Something new emerges, we panic, call it dangerous or unfair, and then a decade later, it is completely normal, over and over again. But right now, something's different. The pace has accelerated. The tools available for optimizing human performance, whether you're a professional athlete or just someone trying to sleep better, it's advancing faster than our ability to process what they mean. And we're stuck in the same pattern, reacting, not thinking. We're either blindly cheerleading, biohack your way to superhuman, or this is dangerous and unnatural. But we're not asking the interesting questions. Like, what does natural actually mean? Most of us drink coffee every day. Is that natural? What about protein supplements, vitamin D, melatonin for jet lag? If you train in an altitude chamber to simulate high altitude conditions, is that natural? If you track your sleep with a ring that measures REM cycles and tells you how to optimize recovery, is that natural? If you do genetic testing to figure out which training protocols your specific body responds to best, where is the line? We've drawn all these boundaries, and most of them fall apart the second you examine them. Here's an example of a runner. Mid-30s, elite level, wants to extend his career another few years. He's considering testosterone replacement therapy. His levels are declining naturally with age, and he wants to maintain what he had at 28. He is already doing altitude training, ice baths, a stack of supplements, sleep optimization tech, compression therapy, regular blood work to monitor biomarkers, but he is hesitant to try testosterone therapy. And that's the thing. The line isn't scientific, it's not ethical, it's arbitrary. It's based on what feels normal versus what feels weird. And it feels weird isn't a good enough reason when we're talking about people's careers, their health, and their livelihoods. So why start this podcast then? Because things are moving at one heck of a pace. It is becoming difficult to keep up. You've probably heard about the Enhanced Games. It's happening in May in Las Vegas. It's a sporting event where performance-enhancing drugs aren't just allowed, they're encouraged under medical supervision with FDA-approved substances. But still, it's the thing everyone said would never happen. The reactions have been predictable. WADA calls it dangerous. The IOC isn't happy. Some people think it's the future. Others think it is a disaster waiting to happen. Athletes are signing up anyway. Some for the money. There's $1 million on the table for breaking a world record. Some because they're frustrated with systems that celebrate them but don't support them financially. And some, like the South African sprinter Clarence Munyai, are competing completely clean with no performance enhancers. But they're joining because, in his words, the Enhanced Games gives him more support than his own national federation ever did. It's complicated, it's messy, and it is also absolutely fascinating. And here's the thing about elite athletes. They've always been the canaries in the coal mine for human performance. What they're experimenting with today, the peptides, the recovery protocols, tech, becomes accessible to the rest of us a few years down the line. But that science is already here. Right now, at the bleeding edge, some remarkable things are happening. Brain-computer interfaces moving into production, aging reversal studies showing actual results in primates, technologies that sound like science fiction but are happening today. This isn't just about elite sports anymore. It is about where we're all heading, and we don't have a framework for thinking about it. We're all just winging it. So here's what the Enhanced Pod is. I'm going to talk to people who are thinking about these questions. Athletes, scientists, doctors, biohackers, ethicists, people doing interesting work, people willing to sit in the discomfort of not having easy answers. And I'm not here to tell you what's right or wrong because I genuinely don't know. What I do bring is curiosity and years of sitting in the hot seat asking uncomfortable questions for a living. Some episodes will dig into the science, what actually works, what's marketing hype, what's legitimately dangerous. Some will explore the ethics. Some will just be conversations with interesting people navigating this strange moment. I'll be covering the Enhanced Games because it's timely and it matters. But this isn't a show about one event. It's about the bigger picture. Where is human performance heading? What tools exist that we don't know about? What should we be paying attention to? And how do we make sense of a world where the future keeps arriving faster than we can process it? Here's what I promise you. I won't pretend to have the answers because I don't. I won't pick a side just to be provocative. What I will do is show up curious, ask good questions, and create space for you to think for yourself. If you're an athlete trying to figure out what's safe and effective, if you're interested in longevity and performance optimization, or if you're just curious about where this is all heading and what it means for how we think about being human, you're in the right place. In the next episode, I'm going deeper on the Enhanced Games, what it actually is, who's competing, what these athletes are actually taking, and why it matters beyond the headlines. Before we wrap, let me give you a taste of what's coming. The Enhanced Games has athletes from swimming, track and field, and weightlifting. We're talking Olympic medalists, world record holders, and they're not just showing up, they're being transparent about what they're using. Peptides, testosterone, growth hormone, all under medical supervision, which raises fascinating questions. Is this actually safer than the current system where some athletes hide what they're doing? What does medical supervision actually look like? And what happens to the results? Do we take them seriously? Or are there asterisks forever? I'll be exploring all this next week with a deep dive. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Follow along on Instagram and X at The Enhanced Pod. And if this resonates, share it with someone who'd find it interesting. This is going to be a journey. I'm glad that you're here. I'm Leigh-Ann. See you next week.